So, how does a world war actually begin? It's never just one single event. It's more like a chain reaction, right? A series of decisions and ignored warnings that just build and build until suddenly there's no turning back. So, how did it happen with World War II? Let's trace the path that led the world into its deadliest conflict. Everything really starts right here. In 1918, the guns finally fell silent across Europe. But that silence was, well, it was deceptive. The end of the Great War didn't bring about a lasting peace. Instead, it planted the seeds for an even bigger, even more devastating conflict. And the very first domino to fall, ironically, it was the peace treaty itself, the Treaty of Versailles. It was supposed to secure peace, but it ended up shaping the next 2 decades in ways that I don't think anyone really saw coming. So the terms laid out for Germany weren't just about ending a war, they were about punishment. Germany was forced to pay these crippling reparations, give up huge chunks of territory, and basically shrink its military down to almost nothing. And, this was actually a huge debate among the Allies themselves. France wanted to be harsh, but others warned that it would just cause more problems down the road. And this is the part that is absolutely crucial to understand. Inside Germany, people didn't see this treaty as a fair peace. No way. They saw it as a national humiliation, a diktat, they called it, a dictated peace that was forced on them. And that feeling of resentment, it just festered, and it became an incredibly powerful tool for politicians. So you've got this deep, nationwide humiliation, and then you combine it with a completely catastrophic economic collapse. What you get is a perfect storm. It created a power vacuum and a whole population of desperate people just looking for a savior. It's honestly hard for us to even imagine the level of chaos here. We're talking about hyperinflation so bad that a person's entire life savings became worthless literally overnight. Can you imagine needing a wheelbarrow packed with cash just to buy one loaf of bread? This wasn't just an economic crisis, it was a crisis of hope. And right into this atmosphere of fear and desperation walks Adolf Hitler. He didn't come with complex economic policies, nope. He offered simple, powerful, and really emotionally charged answers. He promised to bring back German pride, to unite the nation, and most importantly, to get revenge for the humiliation of Versailles. And then, in 1933, it happened. That message worked. It carried him all the way to power as chancellor. And in a terrifyingly short amount of time, he dismantled Germany's democracy and started openly defying the very treaty he had promised to destroy. But here's the thing. Germany's new aggression wasn't happening in a bubble. Similar ideas, militaristic, expansionist ideologies, were taking hold in other parts of the world too. A storm was gathering. I mean, just look at the shared ambitions here. Over in Italy, you had Mussolini dreaming of a new Roman Empire. In Japan, you had a military government dead set on dominating East Asia. And together, these three nations became the Axis powers. They were united by this shared goal of just shattering the world order so each of them could carve out their own empire. So, with all these aggressive powers rising, the really obvious question is, why didn't anyone stop them? Why didn't major powers like Britain and France do something sooner? Well, the answer really boils down to a single fateful policy. And that policy was appeasement. You have to remember, Britain and France were still completely haunted by the memory of World War I. They were desperate to avoid another war like that at all costs. Some even believed that, hey, maybe Germany was treated too harshly and that some of Hitler's demands were kind of reasonable. The hope was that if they just gave in a little, they could satisfy him and keep the peace. So, Hitler, being a master opportunist, started to test the limits. He wanted to see just how far he could push this. In 1936, he marches troops into the Rhineland, a direct violation of the treaty. The response? Nothing. Then, in 1938, he just annexes Austria. Again, nothing. Later that year, he demands, and is given, parts of Czechoslovakia. Each time, the world just watched and did absolutely nothing. So, this is the really crucial part. Appeasement had the exact opposite effect of what everyone intended. Instead of satisfying Hitler, every single victory he got without a fight just made him bolder. It completely convinced him that the Western powers were weak and would never ever stand up to him. So this path of unchecked aggression was fast approaching a point of no return. The policy of appeasement had run its course. There was just one final domino left to fall. After he took Czechoslovakia, Hitler set his sights on his next target, Poland. But this time, Britain and France had finally drawn a line in the sand. They guaranteed they would defend Poland if it was attacked. Hitler was convinced it was all a bluff. So on September 1st, 1939, totally confident that he'd face no real consequences yet again, he gave the order. German forces invaded Poland. But this time was different. 2 days later, Britain and France honored their promise and declared war on Germany. The policy of appeasement was officially dead. World War II had begun. And that brings us right back to our central idea. The war didn't just happen. It was the end result of everything we've just walked through. A humiliating peace, economic desperation, the rise of extremism, and, of course, the catastrophic failure of appeasement. It was built, step by step, decision by decision. And this is exactly why looking back is so important. You know, history rarely repeats itself perfectly, but its patterns definitely do. It's a powerful reminder that huge conflicts often start when a whole series of warning signs are just dismissed or ignored. And that leaves us with one final vital question to think about. What warning signs might we be ignoring today?